Welcome to COMM1260. This is Shannon. I've had the opportunity to get to know many of you in COMM1160. Some of you I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet. So if you're new, welcome aboard. If we've worked together before, welcome back. It seems odd because for those of you that I taught in 1160, we were getting started in January in the middle of winter. And now here we are doing the second half of 1260 in the heat of the summer. So we have done pretty well every season together. I hope that you had a great break. And we will be doing a mini orientation. You probably have already gone through the mini orientation now, but we will be doing a mini orientation where I'll go through the class. Unlike Professor Tony, what I do is record and provide you with a video and then give you assignments. So the video, again, you can watch it anytime. And I will give you a weekly to-do list with the various video links and any associated assignments with that particular week. So this week, we're going to be focusing on delivering effective oral presentations. I'm going to talk about oral presentations in general, some specifics to group presentations. We're going to talk about using PowerPoint and how to design slides for PowerPoint. And then we're going to finish up by talking about oral presentation outlines. I did want to let you know that there is no assignment that is due this week, but you should connect with your group to schedule some working time. So maybe about 2 or 3 hours for the week of July 12th. You're going to be working on an assignment together. So now is the time to start comparing schedules and get everything organized so that you'll have time to work together. This week, we're going to talk about oral presentations. And oral presentations are something that a lot of people love to hate. If you like doing oral presentations or you have no problem doing oral presentations, you are definitely in the minority. Most people really dislike oral presentations and panic when they learn that they have to do an oral presentation in class or have to give some type of oral presentation in the workplace. We're going to talk today about oral presentations, and hopefully some of the information that I'm going to give you will help make the process a lot easier on you. And although I can't guarantee that you'll love doing oral presentations after this, hopefully we can make it not so bad. So I think the first thing that we need to talk about when we're talking about oral presentations really is the fear that happens with oral presentations. The fear of public speaking is the most common phobia before death, before spiders, before heights. Okay, so it is something that most people have in common, the absolute fear of presenting in front of people. 73% of the population, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, has public speaking anxiety. And if you drill down into that anxiety, really the underlying fear is being judged or being negatively evaluated by others. So it really comes down to our self-esteem and our ability to handle people or what we perceive to be people judging us. It's important to remember, though, that people judge us a lot less harshly than we judge ourselves. So, you know it's true. If you've ever gotten a haircut and you don't like it, but you ask other people, right? They don't see the little picky parts that you don't like about it, right? They may actually think it looks great. People judge others way less harshly than they judge themselves. So that is the first thing to keep in mind. But it's also important to recognize that you are not alone. So if the thought of an oral presentation makes you anxious, you are in good company. 73% of the population is also feeling that way. And that sometimes can be a bit of a relief too. Okay, because sometimes it seems like you're the only person that's nervous or fearful about an oral presentation. Not true at all. Why do we even bother with oral presentations? So why do college classes force you to do it? Why do professors put oral presentations on as an evaluation method? Well, the first thing, and I think the best gift, is that oral presentations really help you build your self-esteem. So going through the process of delivering an oral presentation helps you get over that fear of people negatively judging you. It also allows you to hone your critical thinking skills and your ability to think on your feet. Thinking on your feet is probably the number one skill that you use during an oral presentation because you're multitasking. You're thinking about the content that you need to deliver, but you're also responding to the audience at the same time. It also increases your overall fluency. So, your ability to use vocabulary, your ability to be fluent in terms of your speaking is improved by doing oral presentations. In terms of later, though, so that might be the reason why professors put oral presentations on. But in terms of later, after you've graduated, there are some real important reasons why getting practice with oral presentations now is important. The first is really a selfish reason, and that's career advancement. So if you're thinking about your nursing career and you're thinking about getting started, you probably want to progress through the ranks as you're working. So you may, want to end up in some type of a supervisory role or a consulting role or an educating role. Maybe you're thinking about going for your RN or you're thinking about becoming a nurse practitioner or something later on. If you're thinking about those steps along your career, you will need oral presentation skills. So the higher you climb in the hierarchy in healthcare, the more oral presentations you're going to need to deliver. The other important aspect is that nursing is really teaching. Okay, so you have your clinical parts where you're caring for people hands-on, but then you have the other part where what you're doing is educating people about health conditions, educating people about healthy lifestyles, educating people about various processes that they may need to follow at home. You're going to be teaching patients. You're going to be teaching other professionals. You're going to be teaching the public. And oral presentation skills are the number one thing that you need when you're teaching. So this is why we force you, okay? This is why we bother with oral presentations. It's not just to torture you. It's not just to make you anxious. It's to get you ready for the real world skills that you're going to need. In terms of overcoming anxiety, right, there are a few tips that you can keep in mind. The first thing is that you want to start with a low stakes situation. And what we're going to be doing eventually in this course is delivering a group oral presentation that is only worth 10%. Okay, so that's pretty low stakes. The difference between a 50% and 100% on the assignment is only 5 points. Okay, so that's very low stakes. There's not a lot on the line. And sometimes knowing that there's not on a line that there's not a lot on the line is enough to get rid of the anxiety or the nervousness. The other thing is that you want to allow yourself and your others the opportunity to make mistakes. So treat oral presentations as you're getting ready as a learning opportunity, right? Especially when you're in school. Every oral presentation that you do is an opportunity to learn more about how to do oral presentations and to learn more about what your oral presentation style is, things that you might want to repeat next time, things that you don't want to repeat. It's also important to be prepared. The more prepared that you are, the less anxious you will feel. You should know your topic inside and out. Be prepared more than you think you should be. Okay, that is really, really key. If you are ready to go and you know your topic thoroughly, that should relieve some anxiety because you don't then feel like you have to fluff up your presentation. You don't feel like you have nothing to say. You have all sorts of information ready and you're ready to go. Another point that you could try in terms of overcoming anxiety is to put on a persona. This sounds a little bit weird, okay? But sometimes people say that if they go into an oral presentation thinking that there's somebody else, so putting on a persona, imagining that you're your favorite movie star or imagining that you're somebody else that you admire, really can help you overcome anxiety. You also want to visualize success. So think about the end goal. What do you want the oral presentation to be? How do you want to sound? What will success look like for you? And then finally, this is a hard one. Try not to focus on yourself. So don't think about what you look like. Don't think about what you sound like. And try to get rid of that self conscious stuff that we have going on in our brains and our hearts. Try to pull that out. Focus instead on the material. Okay? Hard to do, but it gets easier with practice. There are also some practical considerations that you need to keep in mind when you're giving an oral presentation. The first thing is that, and I believe in this one because you heard me drinking when I'm doing these videos, is to have water with you and to ensure that you are well hydrated. So being well hydrated and having water is very important because if you get dry at all, that tends to affect your voice. If you're the type of person that tends to be congested, right, so to have a lot of nose congestion, make sure that you blow your nose and clear your throat before the presentation. You also want to make sure that you have your notes handy and printed in a large font so that it's easy to see. If you're recording like I am, make sure that you're in a quiet room that's away from others and pets, if you can. Okay, easier said than done. Excuse me, if you have little kids or little pets running around, it can be very difficult to control them. We all recognize those since COVID. Everybody's living their lives at home. These little interruptions may end up happening. That's perfectly okay. But if you can, for your own peace of mind, try to record at a time when you can be away from others. And if you're presenting in person, wear something comfortable yet professional. An oral presentation is not the day to try out your brand new high heels that you don't know how to walk in. Wear something that you're comfortable in that won't distract you. If you're wearing something tight or something that doesn't fit well or something that you have to constantly adjust, that can really be a distraction when you're presenting. Okay, so we'll go on to the next screen here. When you're getting started to present, okay, when you're tasked with a situation where you need to give an oral presentation, so an assignment or a situation at work, the first thing you want to do is to think about your purpose. Okay? And I know this sounds really basic, but it's important. Ask yourself, am I speaking to inform people here? Am I speaking to educate and to give information? Or am I speaking to persuade? So am I trying to persuade people to do a certain thing, maybe take particular actions to improve their health? Or, right, am I giving an oral presentation simply to entertain? Am I in a situation where I'm at a wedding or some type of party and I have to give a speech, right, where I'm trying to entertain people? What am I trying to do here? If you can really focus on what your purpose is, that helps you develop an oral presentation that's going to hit the mark, okay? That's going to do exactly what it is that you want it to do. And then next, you want to think about your audience. Who are you presenting to? Okay? Who is going to hear your oral presentation? Are these people that know a lot about your topic, or do they know nothing about your topic? Are they somewhere in the middle? Are they health professionals? Are they the public? Thinking about who it is that you're talking to can really help you develop the right kind of oral presentation. So obviously, if you're a nurse and you're giving an oral presentation to other nurses and doctors, you're going to present in a particular way. But if you're a nurse and you're presenting to the general public, you're going to present in a completely different way than you would to healthcare professionals. So thinking about your audience really helps. And then finally, think about 3 or 4 key ideas that you want to communicate. What are the 3 or 4 big things that you want your audience to remember and to get out of what you're presenting? Let's talk a little bit about group presentations because the presentation that we're going to be doing for this class is a group presentation. Excuse me. See? Coughing happens during an oral presentation. I'm just going to take a little bit of water. I'm not going to panic about the fact that I coughed, and I'll just carry on. Okay, group presentations. Group presentations have pros and have cons. Okay, so they can be additionally stressful because you're relying on other people to do their bit of the presentation and to do their bit of the presentation well. That can be stressful, right? Because some of the control is out of your hands as an individual. But a group presentation pro is that your group can provide you with support. So you have a group of people that are also going through the same experience, that have the same goal, and that can support one another as they go through the process. When you're doing a group presentation, it's important to be sure that the group as a whole is clear on what the purpose and the audience for the presentation is. Okay, so you all have to agree, right? Excuse me. You also want to ensure that the group members share an integrated view of the project. So, what is our definition of success? What are we shooting for in terms of a grade? What are we shooting for in terms of what information we want to educate people on? It's important as well in a group to have clear guidelines as to each group member's roles and their responsibilities. Okay, so make sure when you're working together that you're very, very clear on who's going to do what by when, right? And who's going to take each part of the presentation. It's also really important too that you remember as an individual that you have an obligation to your group. So be a good group member. Prepare your portion of the presentation to the best of your abilities. Remember that other people's success is partially in your hands as well. So it's important to keep that in mind and to give 110% in any group presentation so that you're not letting down your group members. Finally, some additional considerations when we're talking in general about getting ready for oral presentations. The first thing that you need to remember for any presentation is that you should never, ever, 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 ever read your presentation. Okay, you want to make sure that you speak from notes only, and this can really take some getting used to. But if you've ever been through a presentation where somebody has stood in front of you and read a script, you know how intensely boring that can be. As an audience, we tend to shut off when people start reading. Okay, so never ever read. Get used to the skill of what we call extemporaneous speaking, which is speaking from bullet points or speaking from notes. It takes some practice, right? Some people are naturally better at it than other people are, but it's a skill that anybody can learn. The next additional consideration is when we're talking about in-person presentations, which hopefully after COVID is gone, we'll see more of. It is critically important to make eye contact with your audience, even if you're nervous. One little hint, okay, especially if you're nervous about eye contact, is to look in between people's eyes. Okay, so at the little spot that's in between people's eyes. If you do that, you're not actually looking into their eyes, but the person who you're looking at cannot tell the difference. Okay, so if you're nervous about truly doing eye contact with people, try to focus on that little piece of skin right in between their eyes, and you will fool them every single time. Eventually, you will get so confident that eye contact will not be a problem for you. If you're doing a presentation like we are ourselves during this COVID time, when you're on screen, you need to make a decision about whether you're going to have your camera on or if you're going to do screen only. I have to admit, I do find it difficult when I have the camera on. It is an additional challenge. If you have your camera on, you want to try to look at the camera if you can. Okay, so that what you're doing is you're mimicking that idea of eye contact. But a lot of people find it really difficult to use cam because you have that little box on your screen where you can see yourself. And that actually creates sometimes more of a distraction for people because they end up looking at themselves and worried about what they're looking like on video, adjusting their hair, adjusting the angle. It ends up pulling their attention away from what they're trying to communicate. So on screen, I always say make a decision. If you're comfortable with being on cam, go on cam. Right? If it's something that you find distracting and that you think will weaken your presentation, go for audio only. Okay, those are some general suggestions about oral presentations. In the next video, we're going to go a little bit deeper, but I hope I've been able to relieve a bit of your anxiety. If you want to read more about anxiety with oral presentations, take a look at the internet. There are lots of sites that are devoted, because so many people have it, to this anxiety with oral presentations and how to relieve it. You may find some hints that work for you. I'll talk to you in the next video.